Hi, Wade. Welcome to the Meetup Spot.
Nigel, thanks for having me. We were just chatting before you hit record that you're in Edmonton, I'm in Kelowna, BC. A little colder where you are, unfortunately, but I hope you're doing
It's
well this
fine.
morning.
Oh, well, it's fine. So, anyways, let's head into the questions. So, Wade, tell me about yourself and your growing up story.
My growing up story. I grew up in southern Alberta. So the town I grew up in is Taber, Alberta, corn capital of Canada. If you haven't tried Tabor corn, you need to try Tabor corn. It's unbelievable. I grew up, great town, small town experience, very close with a lot of the people, friends and family I grew up with in that community. And then I never really knew what I wanted to do after high school. So this was a question that a lot of teachers had thrown our way early on. And a lot of my friends had an idea, but I really struggled with this until grade 11. And I had a teacher, his name was Doc Hart, and he gave us an assignment this one day. And so what the assignment was is he walked around with a bunch of single pieces of paper and he handed a piece of paper, it was blank, to everybody. And then he came to the front of the room and he said, "Your assignment is to write something on that piece of paper. It can be whatever you want." And then he left the room. And I remember all of my classmates were all confused, like, wait a second, we can literally write whatever we want. And then some people joked about, like, I'm going to write one word and hand it in. And he said, that's the assignment. So he can't dock me any marks. And one girl just wrote like the F word in big letters. And it was technically abiding by the assignment. But I took that piece of paper home that night and I spent hours writing, and I probably wrote the best thing I had ever written in my life. It was a short story, and I just wanted to put every little inch of that paper. I wanted to ensure that I was writing something that meant something, and it tapped into this part of me. And how somebody described it later on was almost this teacher had given me permission to be creative. He had created the parameters of this challenge. And so at that moment, I discovered a love for writing, which has now expanded to simply a love of being creative, I think, and creating. So if it's video content, if it's speaking to people, whatever that looks like. But that was what triggered me to the next steps, journalism school, and so forward, or so on going forward.
Ah, nice. You mentioned Tabor corn. Do you sometimes go back to Southern Alberta?
I do. Yeah, my parents live in Lethbridge. I have a sister and foremost. My brother's in Medicine Hat. So it's nice because I can get back to Southern Alberta and see all of them. So I do try to get there as much as possible.
Nice. And did that girl who wrote the big F word? Did she get suspended or expelled?
No, no. All of the assignments were hung up. I remember like on the walls and hers was there because it was her creative expression and that matched her personality. And I love that the teacher didn't give her any sort of punishment for it because that was the assignment.
Yeah, but most importantly, what was the short story you wrote?
It was called Aimless Lives, and it was from four different people's perspective. So the idea was this event happened, and then each paragraph, there was four paragraphs, and one was from the teacher's point of view, one was from a student's point of view, one was from the student's girlfriend's point of view. But it was interesting. It was kind of at the time I remember I was reading a book by Bret Easton Ellis, and he's a very interesting writer and he takes different people's perspectives. So it was kind of, I think I was in that mindset, but it just tapped into this ability that I have to tell stories.
Ah, that's nice. Aimless life. That's yeah. Those are perspectives from yeah, from different people.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And just the idea that it can be the same story, but we all have a different perspective of it.
That's nice. That is so nice. So Wade, why do you do what you do?
My job currently is I'm an executive director with Remax, which is a far jump, it seems, from the writing, the creative, but it all does kind of link together. So I went to college for journalism because I remember asking a career counselor, I've discovered that I have this joy of writing. What should I go study? And he put the pieces together and said, well, journalism, you would write for a living. And so I studied journalism, but I realized pretty quickly that I wasn't passionate so much about the objective journalism, covering news stories, rushing out to a car accident to get interviews, all of those sorts of things. I appreciated those who do it, and I think it's an important role, but that's not what I was passionate about. Throughout the course, I had a chance to do some photography, various things. And then coming out of journalism school, I did get a job with my local newspaper, one of our local newspapers called Kelowna Capital News. It came out 2 times a week, and I enjoyed it. I learned a lot, but there was always this little piece of wanting to do something a little bit different. And the pure reality, the newspaper industry isn't exactly thriving. We were seeing staff being laid off, page count was going down, and being a young guy in my early 20s, I had to think about long-term career. What was unique is that in Kelowna, there was the Western Canada headquarters for Remax. So it was known as Remax of Western Canada. Usually, a headquarters like that would be based in Calgary, maybe Edmonton, Vancouver, but the owner at the time demanded that it be in Kelowna. And so that was very convenient for me. So I applied for a job as social media and communications coordinator there. And then since I've just kind of evolved through it. And what I love about my job is that it allows me to keep that creative side. I do a podcast within Remax. I'm able to do a bunch of speaking. So it's a win-win.
Nice. And before I ask, before I ask you, how'd you transfer your journalism college skills on in a newspaper to Remax? I just want to say, I just want to ask, how'd you go from Southern Alberta to Kelowna?
My parents, so they grew up in Tabor. They retired the same year I graduated high school, and they retired to Kelowna at the time. And I was in college, so I'd go and visit them in Kelowna, and I was like, "Oh man, this is a lot nicer than Tabor." No offense to Tabor, but you've got the beautiful lake, the nicer weather, and so that was the driving force that I wanted to be in that beautiful city. Having my parents close was nice. And then a few years ago, they moved back to Lethbridge, which is too bad. I miss having them out here in Kelowna, but it's nice to go visit them in Southern Alberta.
Nice. And did you go have fun at the lakes, boating?
Oh, yeah, you have to. Beach volleyball during the summer. You've got the wineries. This is a beautiful place. And my wife works for Tourism Kelowna. So she's constantly telling people about all the great things, and I get all the insights and the newest things happening. But Kelowna is a beautiful destination.
hmm Okay. Wade, how'd you transfer your journalism skills and just from college and the newspaper to Remax?
It was my first week at Remax, and my boss came in to my office and she said, "Wade, just so you know, we have this event that's called Sales Associate Orientation, and it's coming up in 2 weeks. And you're going to give a presentation about social media. It's going to be a room of like 60 real estate agents. So if you could do a half-hour presentation, that would be awesome." And then she walked out of my office, and the nerves and the anxiety started to set in. And I was thinking, like a half-hour presentation. I've never really done public speaking. Like I spoke at my sister's wedding briefly, but I'd never really done that. And I had a certain level of confidence with my communication skills, but this was on a new level. And I spent the next 2 weeks very stressed about this presentation. It was impacting my sleep. I was worried about it, but I built the presentation and then I delivered it and it went okay. I got through it. It was almost the way I would describe it is like an out of body experience where I was kind of numb. Like I was just an autopilot. I was talking, but the whole thing felt like a blur. And then all of a sudden it was done. And then I relaxed a little bit for 2 weeks. But the problem was this event was a monthly event. So 2 weeks later, I was now 2 weeks out from the next speaking opportunity. So I went through this for about 5 or 6 months. And then I had to take a step back and analyze and realize that I was spending about half of my life with fear and anxiety that revolved around public speaking. A coworker of mine at the time mentioned that Toastmasters might be something to check out. And so I went to a local Toastmasters meeting and I loved it. Like I just loved the format. Again, kind of going back to that initial story of grade 11 and the permission to be creative. That's sort of what Toastmasters is. Every meeting, you have the opportunity to sign up for a role, to create a speech, to be unique, to be creative. And what I found is that after because the whole goal when I joined Toastmasters was to reduce that level of anxiety. I would say after 3 months, I noticed that drastically went down. I still get nervous all the time, but I can control it. I know what to expect.
Nice. And what did the presentation look like then?
It was teaching real estate agents how they should be using social media. So this would have been in 2014, and it was the time corporations were finally starting to pay more attention to the fact, okay, this isn't just something college students and kids are doing. Like there's a business reason you should be focused on Facebook or Twitter, Instagram, or whatever the platform was at the time. And so it was basically telling agents, hey, you just dumping all of your listings on social media and not doing anything else isn't the most engaging content. So it was giving them ideas of how they could be a little bit more creative and build relationships on social media.
Mhm. That's nice. And what kind of mindset did you have when you first started?
Imposter syndrome. I was especially so my role evolved at Remax. So I started out looking after social media and communications. Then about 4 years later, I transitioned into what we called at the time as member services. The concept here, the simplest way to explain it, there's like 280 Remax offices in Western Canada. There are three of us who are sort of reps for those offices. So I have a territory of offices that I look after, and I will go out and visit those offices. I'll deliver training for agents. I will work with the broker owners to help them with their profitability. And going from a journalism background, never being a realtor, never selling real estate, never taking the real estate course, then all of a sudden I am consulting with broker owners on how they should be running their business and how they can tap into the Remax tools and services. I felt very, very out of place. And my then boss, Roy Anderson, I remember he told me something that really helped. He said, Wade, think of it like a potluck. If everyone brings the exact same thing, it's a pretty lousy potluck. Like that's not a potluck you want to go to. And then he explained with our team at the time, Remax of Western Canada, he had been an agent and an owner. We had another person in our team who was a manager, another person who worked with Century 21 for 13 years and who had come over. So we had all this wide range of experience in the real estate field, but he said what they were lacking was that marketing or that social media or that communications background. And that was the piece of the puzzle that I brought in.
Okay, nice. And okay, how did you deal with the imposter syndrome?
By that helped. So Roy's advice, remembering that I do add a form of value and then experience. Experience trumps everything. And I think one of the big things as well was building the relationships. So at first it was these scary broker owners who I hadn't met yet, but the more you get to go to events, meet, interact with them, learn about their families, it really turned into something where I'm like, oh, I like these people. I care about them. I want to do a good job. And so that helped speed up my knowledge in the space as well.
Mhm. Nice. And before I asked about imposter syndrome, you mentioned something about people not having not much of a background. What?
Not much of a background. So in real estate, is that what you're wondering? So I didn't have a big background in real estate. That was something that was new to me. And then joining Remax, I had to sort of learn and level up. But what was really helpful is as I was building all of these relationships, I it didn't really matter that I had never personally taken the real estate course because I had had enough conversations with people who had been in the industry for decades and I would learn a lot from them. And that's all I needed for the role is to be able to like piece together examples from different parts of the country. And then if I had a different broker owner that was dealing with a challenge, I could sort of team those people together to work together to figure out that problem. It didn't matter that I didn't have that direct experience.
Hmm, that's cool. That's cool. And if I'm not sorry, you started to be a Toastmasters to help leverage your public speaking skills for your work at Remax, which I think
Yeah.
you mentioned that as a social media communications director. How has it improved along the way?
Unbelievably. Toastmasters is one of the best things ever. I think it is, I'm really starting to understand how important of a role public speaking is. Like, I actually think if you are a leader, and I think so many people are leaders, maybe they're not leaders of their business, but they are leaders sometimes in their community. Maybe you coach a team, maybe you're the leader of your family. This ability to be able to communicate confidently, and like, credit to you, Nigel, doing all of these interviews and bringing on these different interesting guests and hosting these conversations. I think you are building a muscle, you're building a skill that is so essential. And especially when we start to think about the future and where things are going and how artificial intelligence is going to disrupt things, this is one of those skill sets that isn't going to be quickly replaced by AI. That in-person ability to communicate effectively and connect on a human level, I think, is incredibly important. What's great about Toastmasters is it's all about putting in the reps. Practice is like the single best thing to improve your public speaking is practice, practice, practice. Toastmasters gives you the space to do this. The two ways I describe it, one, like a gym. I've met people before who have said, "Yeah, I used to do Toastmasters like 10 years ago. It was great." And in my mind, that's almost like saying, "Oh yeah, I used to work out 10 years ago. Yeah, it was awesome." Almost like it's something you're done with. Well, we know that if you don't continue to go to the gym, you're going to lose muscle, you're going to lose fitness. It's something you have to continue doing. I believe the same for Toastmasters. I've noticed times where I haven't been to a meeting in a few months, my skills get rusty. You have to keep working on it. And the second thing, so it's like a gym, it's also like a playground. It is that opportunity where you can test new things, you can try out, you can walk around the room, and you are in a safe space with people who want to see you succeed. And that's going to help you level up your skills.
Nice. And thank you for the feedback, though.
Of course, I think it's awesome you're doing these interviews. I think another thing, so I think public speaking is so important. I also think interviewing other people is a really key important skill. One, you get to learn about various people and their industries, their careers, you get to build connections, and it's fun. I do a lot of interviewing of other people. I don't so often get asked to be on interviews. So this is a treat for me, and I love that you're doing it, Nigel.
Thank you, Wade. And are you doing a podcast too?
A few, a few, yeah. So
Oh,
I do one with Remax. It's called Power Moves. It used to be called the Remax Hustle Podcast. Really enjoy doing that. I was just sort of slowed down on it, but for the last 4 years, I did one based on like crypto and blockchain technology. It's another like side interest of mine with my friend Ulf, and we did about 150 episodes of that. I had my first child about a year ago, and so life has gotten busy. So I've had to sort of compartmentalize and choose where I focus. So we've slowed down that, but that was a lot of fun. And then I've got this like weird little podcast off of my YouTube channel called Keys from Keynotes, where I've only done about 6 episodes, but I love the idea of interviewing people who are professional keynote speakers and asking them questions like, do you get nervous? You give 1,000 talks over the last 10 years. Do you still get nervous when you take the stage? Things like that. And I find it's just really interesting learning from the pros.
that's nice. In your icebreaker speech that you gave last year, you mentioned social pressures being the reason for fear of public speaking. How do you think people should break free from it and be proud to speak their voice?
Well, first off, it is shocking that it took me this long to do my Pathways icebreaker speech. For context, when I joined Toastmasters probably a decade ago, I did back then they had like the competent communicator manual, and I did my icebreaker right away. I finished that manual, and then I finished competent leadership. And then I think like 3, 4 years in, it switched to pathways. And at that point, I was just reluctant. I don't know why. Change is hard sometimes, and I didn't want to embrace the new system. I still attended Toastmasters. I still showed up to meetings for like 5 years and would take on roles, but I never did any of the curriculum. And then finally, with enough pressure from my local Toastmasters club, they're like, wait, it's insane. You're mentoring people and you've never touched pathways. And I thought, yeah, it's probably a good idea. Also, for my YouTube channel, I can start to create content with me finally taking on pathways. So that prompted me to do the icebreaker once again. And I think to answer your question directly, there is no replacement for practice. Like that is simply the best way to overcome any sort of anxiety, fear about public speaking, to level up your skills. There's simply no replacement. It's like me going to Toastmasters meetings after about 3 months. I noticed a drastic difference. You have to practice. People like to romanticize this idea of winging it, of being able to just get up in front of a room of people and do something off the cuff. And I would say the people who can do that effectively are unicorns. They're very rare. Very few people can do it. And the people who you think can do it probably practice more than you realize. So practice is very important.
Nice. So seriously, mentoring without doing any pathway. Yeah,
Oh
mentoring
yeah.
without doing any pathways. How are you able to do that?
Because I think like being around Toastmasters at that time, you got to keep in mind, I was probably a Toastmaster for 7 years or so. And competent communicator and competent leadership, you still are doing projects like working on body language, vocal variety. So I think I was a in a position where I could help people out. What I would do when they had pathway specific questions is I would ask our VP of education to tap in and help me out with that in terms of guiding them. Or in some instances, I still knew the answers. Like I still knew how pathways worked. I personally just hadn't taken on the speeches. And so I think that's how I got away with being a mentor to so many and still not touching pathways.
Nice. And what were you doing between the manuals and pathways
It's just
aside
signing up for
from mentoring?
roles, signing up for roles, just showing up to meetings. Because I really do believe, going back to the gym example, it's all about the reps. So it doesn't matter if I'm the Toastmaster or a speaker. Like I did very few speeches, but I would treat other roles almost like speeches. So if I signed up for the humorist role, or if I signed up to do table topics or to evaluate, I would say I was focused more on the evaluation roles and trying to help others and give back because we had a lot of newer members. And at that time, I had been there for a few years. And so I felt that I could help them out by giving evaluations. But it was just to get the reps in of speaking. And I still got great value, which goes to show how great Toastmasters is. You can literally not touch the curriculum and just sign up for roles and still get a ton of value. Don't get me wrong. I think you should still do the curriculum, do the education, because you're going to get even more value that way. But it's a very robust program.
Nice and nice. And do you also do local booths in your area? Because I did that too in my local Toastmasters.
A local witch? Sorry, I missed that, Nigel.
When you do when there's local events in your area, do you sometimes have booths
Oh,
in your area?
I haven't done that. No, we haven't done any
Really?
sort of booth or anything like that. No.
That's kind of interesting. Or wait, you're still in your local Toastmasters club.
Yes.
You should try that. It's kind of fun.
I'll keep that in mind for sure. Well, I think that there's been our club's in a unique situation right now because
Oh.
we're growing almost too big. And so like it's great. It feels like every week we're getting new members signing up, but we kind of have like a ceiling of how many we can facilitate effectively within our meetings. Otherwise, we might have to sort of lean on some of the other Kelowna clubs to absorb some of the people who want to be part of the program. But over the last year, we haven't really had the need to hold open houses or invite more people because our club is growing really well with word of mouth. With that said, a few years ago, I remember when we would have 4, 5, 6 members for meetings and would really struggle. Everyone was taking on 3 roles. And so it ebbs and flows and we don't take it for granted. But that might be one of the reasons why we're not actively doing like the booths and things like that.
Oh, so that's why. So growing too big without a need for open houses. How's that happening? I know you mentioned word of mouth, but how's it that really happening?
Man, I'm inspired. I am blown away by the members of our club. I've always been such a fan of Kelowna AM Toastmasters. So we meet every Thursday morning, 6:45 a.m. in Kelowna, and it's a virtual slash in person. So it's mostly in person, but we open it to virtual because every now and then we might get 1 or 2 people per meeting who are joining virtual, but we want to make it as accessible as possible. But it's the members. There are still three or four members of our club who were there when I first joined back a decade ago, who are just those long-term people who have been with Toastmasters for decades. They've got their DTMs, Distinguished Toastmaster Awards. They're really knowledgeable. And then we have this unique mix of new members who are coming on who just have so much talent and are thinking outside of the box. And they're really pushing some of the boundaries of what the traditional Toastmasters looks like. Because that's been, I will say, if I have one thing to say negative about Toastmasters, and this is not all clubs, but I dislike how formal it is.
Oh,
Sometimes I hate all of the formalities that go around it. And I understand that there's a certain importance to it, but I love our club because there's a certain level of casual and people will jump in and like make comments that are funny and there's kind of this like this vibe or this culture about our club that I really enjoy. And if it ever got too formal, that would I wouldn't be interested in that. And what I've noticed is some of these younger speakers who are coming and joining they'll try things out. They'll be a little bit more casual. They'll, you know, just experiment with different things. And to me, that's what Toastmasters is all about. And I think it's just that feeling, that vibe that our club has right now that is attracting more people.
nice. So when you say in person, virtual in person, so 1 week virtual and then next week in person, right?
No, every meeting is both. So it's
Oh.
the main part, most people, so let's say we have 30 members who are attending, 28 of those people will be in the room and then two might be joining virtually via Zoom. And it's good practice for us as speakers because you're speaking to the room to people in person, but then you've also got somebody on the computer, so you kind of have to incorporate both when you're talking.
Hmm. So, so casual. So you're treating Toastmasters as a casual place to just meet to talk things something like that.
I wouldn't say that. No, we're still very serious about
Okay.
improving our speaking skills. What I mean is, I've been to clubs where it's so formal, like the formalities and everything, and just all the instructions of how you do it, how you speak, who you acknowledge, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmaster, all that kind of thing. Whereas we'll have the odd person, they still take their speech seriously, but they'll maybe be a little bit more funny. They'll throw in a joke, or somebody in the audience will like comment something mid presentation, and it's not done in a way to deter or take away from it, but it's just fun and it adds to the atmosphere. And I actually think that is representing what's more likely in a real life event. Because if you attend an event where people are speaking, you're more likely to have that dynamic type of environment. People aren't always going to be silent in their chairs the whole time you're speaking. Depending on the event that you're in, they might be shouting things out. And so this gives you an actual scenario to practice, and it's just fun. It's like it makes Toastmasters fun.
That's nice. And did you join your local club contest this year?
I did finally
Oh,
because I finally got to the pathways level 2 finished. I hadn't done it up until this point, and so I had competed in the past in the speaking evaluation
yep.
contests, and I'd done well in those, but hadn't really. I think one point I competed in a club speech contest years ago, but then I already knew there was going to be a work conflict for the area contest, so I didn't take it that seriously basically. So this was the first time we had our club contest earlier in February, and I did win for our club, but I was surprised. We have another member, Siobhan, and her speech was phenomenal. And I thought she was going to beat me. Like I gave my speech and then I watched hers and I'm like, Siobhan's going to beat me. That was better. But it must have been close in the judges' vote and I ended up getting it. So I have the area coming up next. So wish me luck.
Congratulations.
Thanks, man.
So what was your speech like in the club contest?
It's a story. It's an embarrassing story about me getting a passport photo taken and my bald head reflecting the light.
Ah, nice. Nice. And
And then it ties into a deeper message, but that is the initial premise of it.
and what was it and what was the deep message?
To be authentic to yourself.
Oh, nice. And what was Shaban's speech that you thought you were going to lose to?
Wow, she has a very powerful story about her dad passing away and what that
Oh,
experience was like. And she is such an incredible, she's one of our newer members. She joined about a year ago.
nice.
And right away, like when she joined our club, I was so stoked because what I think she does better than anyone in our club is body language. Like anytime Siobhan speaks, you are immersed into her story. She just has this way, this natural ability. And I was watching, I was mesmerized by her speech. I definitely thought she was going to win. She did such a good job. And what's really unfortunate is, to my understanding, for our area contest, it's only the first place from each club that gets to go for this one. I would have loved to have seen her compete at the next level. She really deserves to be there, but she's a new member. Next year, she's going to crush it. I'm sure she'll win our club contest next year.
So are you ready? So you're gonna be in the area contest.
Correct.
Best of luck. Yeah.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
because I gotta show you something. I too managed to get second place in B.
Hey, congrats, Nigel. That's
Sorry, yeah,
awesome.
sorry,
It's
yeah,
not
sorry, the
showing. It's got
background.
like the oh there. I can kind of yeah, there we go.
Yeah, the
Second
ribbon.
place.
Yeah, sorry, the
Congrats.
background is not showing this.
So are you competing in the area contest?
No, because this is second place.
Got you. So for yours, it's only the first place as well that goes.
Uh, yeah, it's fine, it's fine. So and
Congrats. Nothing to be like second place is a huge honor. Good job, man.
Thanks. Thanks. In an article back in 2017, you won an evaluation speech in the District 21 contest. You mentioned that, and you were called the best listener in Southern BC. What does it take to be the best listener?
I get my ability to listen well from my mom. My mom she's just the sweetest woman, but she is such a good listener. And when you talk to my mom, she makes you feel like you are the only person in the world. She gives you her full attention. She's dialed in. She asks questions, which is so important. So, this is outside of the Toastmasters contest, which I'll talk about in a second. But just in general, I think that that is an important art. We were talking before about the importance of speaking as a leadership skill and something that's not going to be disrupted by AI. And I think that our ability to truly connect and to listen to other people and show a genuine interest in what they're talking about, that's something that not everyone does. Often we're thinking in a one-on-one conversation about what we want to say rather than listening to what the other person's saying. So I think that's so important as a life skill. When it comes to the speech evaluation contest, that was something that a previous member of our club, he had done really well. He got to the district level and he got second place. And so when I competed the next year, I asked him like, "Hey, can we sit down? Can we chat about this? Can you break down like what allowed you to get so far?" And he really helped me because what's interesting about the contest for speech evaluation is that I actually don't think speech evaluation contest entries are good evaluations. I know that sounds crazy, but it's a contest. You have to hit certain marks. And so the judges are looking for specific things. Basically, there's a formula to it. And what really worked well, and this was advice that I got from him, his name's Brad, he was able to break down, okay, you need a powerful intro that hopefully ties to an example that they use from their speech. So, Nigel, for example, let's say you were talking, your speech was about baseball, and at some point you like swung a bat. Maybe for me, giving my evaluation, I like this is a really cheesy example that just came to mind, but like if I came up and I said, "Today Nigel gave us a presentation and he knocked it out of the park." That's so terrible and I would not do that in a contest. But I'm like emulating something you actually did from your speech and hopefully giving a direct quote. So that's the intro that's like, "Wow, you've caught the judge's attention." Then you want to give three positive things and two things that they can work on. And what's interesting is almost every speech in Toastmasters, outside of Toastmasters, there's about eight things that people can improve on or that they did really well. These things are body language, their vocal variety, their speech structure, their filler words, their ability to use humor, uh, like there's all these different things, right? And so you can almost have those pre-written on a sheet of paper and have like a plus and a minus column and then just draw arrows to what they did well or what they need to improve upon and then look for the specific examples within the speech. And then the thing that many people fail on when they do a speech evaluation contest is they don't give a conclusion. And there is a whole part of the judges' score sheet that is on a conclusion. Most people just don't do it. So they have to get a zero, especially if you, another contestant, does it, because the judges will be like, oh, no one else did this. They get 0 out of 5. Wade or Nigel gets 5 out of 5. And so that is the formula, but it doesn't seem like a genuine, authentic evaluation. It's more like this is about me. Whereas I think the best evaluations are the ones that are you're not worried about this formal structure. You're really just honed in on the speech and you're trying to help that speaker rather than kind of put on a performance in a contest, if that makes sense.
Okay, so evaluations must be a learning thing, not a performance. Unless it is.
Exactly. In contest, you have to. If you want to win the contest, and that's fair, right? You've got to have judges' parameters, you've got to have all those things. So I respect the fact, and it does kind of create a framework that you can remember for evaluations. But I think when you're giving an evaluation at the club, don't worry about all the formalities. Just simply think, like, what can I do to help this speaker? If you're giving a presentation, how can I help Nigel? Like, what does he need to hear to make his next speech better? And if you're going in with it being authentic, being genuine, I think that's the best evaluation you can give.
Mhm. Okay, I think in a few minutes I might need to send you a Zoom link. I gotta be honest with you. So will we still have time? Will we still have time before I send you another Zoom link? What were the feedbacks you've been given as someone who's done speeches and evaluations?
Feedback I've been given, I think the best feedback I've been given is to slow down. I
Yep.
speak quicker. Like when I'm in front of people, I speed up. I will practice and practice and practice the speech by myself in my room. And then when I get in front of people, the heart rate's up. I speak quicker. This is something I still continue to try to work on, slowing down.
Okay, and I'm still trying to work on that too. How do you slow down?
Takes practice. You need to be really intentional about it. I think that a couple things help. One is really breathing, like dialing in your breathing. Box breathing works well for this. The idea of box breathing is a 4 second inhale, hold for 4 seconds, exhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, and you repeat that. So if you
Ah,
do that a few times before you give the speech, it's going to slow your heart rate a little bit. Another thing I love to do is stand up before I present. So I like to stand over at the side of the room. So, for example, for you, Nigel, if somebody else has just given a speech and then maybe there's like a couple minutes where people are writing their feedback and you're the next speaker, find a spot in the side of the room rather than to go from sitting, be stood up and be ready to go. And that just helps get you in the right mind frame. And then from there, being mindful, practicing, recording yourself, watching it back, figuring out when you speed up and just trying to add more pauses in.
that's nice. Okay, all right.
I'm so nervous. What's the countdown at? I feel like it's going to go off
Less
any second.
less than 1 minute. So
Oh man.
do you want me to end the Zoom call
Let's do it,
and then
man. Send me a new link and I'll be there.
all right, thanks. All right, we're back. So where were we before this whole sorry. Um you still want to continue number 8. What did you say before I told you about the Zoom call invite ending?
Yeah. We're just talking about various things like the evaluation contest and the best strategies there. You asked me the most important lesson I had learned from an evaluation, and that is to slow down and some techniques. So we talked about breathing, various things like that.
I think we're done with that. So right now it's tough for people these days to find jobs. If they want to go the same path as you, what are the things they can do right now to practice?
Well, the path I took is just a wacky path in general of like bouncing around from journalism to real estate. I think you need to ask yourself, what do you love doing? What is the thing that you really are passionate about? And then start working on that thing, whether you have the actual job that requires you to do it or not. Example for me is YouTube. So this is something that I do completely on the side. Why do I do it? Because I love educating people, teaching them about public speaking. So I was thrilled to jump on this podcast because I knew it would be talking about public speaking skills. And I'm such a believer in the Toastmasters program. And I think that this is a really important skill set and muscle to develop. So it's something that drives me. I could get paid zero for the rest of my life to speak about public speaking, to create content, and I would still do it because I still truly believe it's helping people. And when you find something like that in life, it's just super important. And then I think from if it is something creative that you're passionate about, go put out content, start teaching people, educating, being a student along with other people in learning that thing, putting out content, just like you're doing with these interviews. I think it's really smart. And I think that's the best way is you're almost building an online profile and resume of what you're good at. Because I think the days of having just a university diploma or degree, I think that matters less today. If I was a boss hiring somebody, I think that I would care more about their attitude, what they've done in the past in terms of like projects they've worked on, and what some of those creative outlets are, what they're doing online with like assuming this is a creative endeavor that they're focused on, like what is the real tangible things that they're creating in terms of content. So if that's the area that you're passionate in, just go do it, even if it's your job or not.
Mhm. So and because of that, how's it going with your YouTube channel?
I love it, man. I love it. I get a blast. I have such a blast. So, one of the coolest things ever was I remember it was like a year into creating content. And part of it was I was looking for some of this content as well, and I wasn't finding a lot of it on YouTube. So, taking on different Toastmasters roles. And at that point, I had a few years of experience. So, I'm like, well, I could teach others how to do this. And then I started to get comments, and I would get a comment from somebody in Portugal. And they said, hey, Wade, I'm signing up for the all counter role. Thank you. This video has helped me so much. Like, I'm feeling well prepared. Greetings from Porto Toastmasters. And I'm like, that is cool. Like just that feeling that were part of an international organization and that somebody in a different part of the world is watching one of my videos and it's actually adding value to them. That's just the biggest motivation. And so for me, I have a blast doing it. I love it. Yeah, I'm passionate about it.
Nice, nice. I like how that you're getting people from from around the world commenting to you.
Totally. It's awesome.
Uh, all right, thanks. And lastly, what does the work you do right now mean to you?
It's very meaningful. So there's a few different areas I'll focus on. First off, with regard to Remax, I built these relationships with our agents, with our owners, and they've put a big part of their livelihood. Like they've invested in our brand. They've chosen to be with our brand. And so I take a huge amount of responsibility to ensure I'm doing a really great job so that I can help them be successful. And it's really cool because they're making a difference in people's lives during one of the most stressful transactions people will ever have in buying or selling a home, and they're on the front lines doing that. And the fact that I get to sort of in a different way be a part of that and help them means a lot. When it comes to public speaking, it's something I'm passionate about, helping people find their voice, create their speeches, fine tune a speech, and be able to communicate effectively. And whether that's going to help them drive more sales, maybe it's going to help them influence people, transform audiences, make a difference in their community. It's crazy. Some people have all the knowledge, they have every skill set from that perspective, but they can't communicate effectively. And it's such a shame because they're missing out on these opportunities to make a real difference. And if I can help those people, it's incredibly meaningful.
I like that. Well, I guess that's it for the questions. Are you ready for quick fire?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's start the clock. Here we go. All right, here we go. One word to describe yourself.
Creative.
Nice. What is your best Toastmasters tip?
Practice.
Best artist you love to listen to?
Taylor Swift.
Well, really, or really, what's your favorite Taylor Swift song?
All Too Well, the 10-minute version.
Ah, nice. One everyday item you can't leave without.
My phone.
Oh, mantra in life.
Attitude is everything.
Best place in Kelowna for a good meal.
Central.
What's the best place to get it? Yeah, to get it central.
I love their brunch. Their Benny's, next level, got great Caesars. Central's the spot.
Caesars. It's in like drinks or the
Oh,
salad.
yeah. Yeah. The drink.
Yeah, seriously, the drink in the morning. Okay, best place in BC to go road tripping or travel.
Kimberly, BC. I grew up going there as a child. I love it. It's just this beautiful little community on a ski hill. It's incredible.
Oh, yeah, nice. Kimberly.
Yeah.
One song that uplifts you.
Don't Look Back in Anger by Oasis.
Best Toastmasters club you went to in your travels.
Osaka. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It's in Osaka, like Osaka Shin Leaders Toastmasters Club, something like that. In
Ah,
Japan. So cool.
oh, I guess. I guess we're done with the quick fire. Are you ready to do the screenshot?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, here we go. All right, it's nice. Thank you.
I was
Thank you,
like,
Wade.
I was like, are we taking it yet? Nice. Good job, Nigel.
Nice, thanks. Any last thoughts or comments?
If you are somebody who wants to communicate more, to give speeches, to give presentations, I have this new idea I've kind of been working on in the back of my head of like every leader needs a keynote. I think every person can use a speech in their back pocket. If you are a leader, it's your job. It's your job to influence people, to help transform them, to make a difference in their lives. And I would bet that anyone who's watching or listening to this episode, you have some form of value that you can teach others. Don't wait for you to be asked to give a presentation. Come up with one, like create it, have this ready to go. Because once you have something built, it is my belief that you will seek out opportunities naturally where you can then share and test this. And the more that you do it, the more other opportunities that will follow. And this is you leaving a mark on people and being able to teach them and add value to your audiences. Same for a wedding. I've been to a few weddings where last second, like the day before, they decide they're going to have an open mic. And maybe you're attending a wedding and you have a story that you really want to tell about the bride or the groom. And like maybe you're part of the wedding party, but haven't been asked to give a speech. Still go through the process of like thinking about what a speech would be. And then if the opportunity arises, you're ready to go, right? If it doesn't, that's fine. You've still come up with a cool story, but prepare even when you're not asked to.
That's nice. That's nice. And I'd like to add to that. So speaking of leaders, though, just so you know, Bill Bennett, the former BC Premier, used to be a Toastmaster. Do you know that?
I did not know that. That's awesome. And I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. I've come across a lot of people who are, leadership positions, CEOs, and many of them have a situation which stems back through Toastmasters at some point in time, but often they're not current Toastmasters. And that's where I'd push back because, again, going back to the gym example, I think it's a lifelong membership. I think you should not only try Toastmasters at some point, I think you should stay a Toastmaster.
That's nice. And how can we find you?
Search my name on YouTube, Wade Paterson, Paterson with one T. If you are interested in public speaking, I have a few hundred videos that can hopefully add value and help you out. And I'm on the other platforms. Just search my name and hopefully you find me. But thanks again, Nigel, for this opportunity. Really appreciate it.
Again, thank you too for the opportunity for coming.
No worries, man. Have a really good rest of your day. Stay warm in -17 Edmonton. Oh my
I
goodness.
know. I know. Thank you, Wade. Thank you,
Cheers,
Wade.
man.